Aloha and thank you. Gotta wait for that. Aloha and thank you for joining us, taking time to come in today and join us for the Advocacy Week. I'm Rick Tabor, and I'm co-chairing with Stafford Kiguchi, who's also in here. My involvement, those of you who know me, I'm pretty passionate about supporting, treating, and finding a cure for dementia, partly because my mother has been diagnosed with dementia, and that's a long story, what all is going on there. I've also provided services as a mental health counselor, and I was an operations manager for in-home care services for a few years as well. Counseling was 46 years. My newest role is a long-term care ombudsman volunteer, and so of course I'll be continuing to work with dementia stuff as well. I'm retired, and I'm in a dozen nonprofits. I won't name them all, but I've been with Alzheimer's Association for 4 years. This is one of the first ones that I started with. Hawaii Meals on Wheels and Alzheimer's Association was kind of the beginning for me for volunteer stuff. That's a little bit about me. I want to ask each of you to take a little bit of time. I'll call on you to introduce yourself. Just take a minute, your name and your connection to Alzheimer's Association. I'm going to go in the order here that we have them on here, and I'm going to start with, I'm going to start with you, LJ. Why don't you go ahead? Tell them about yourself.
Thanks, Rick. My name is LJ. I think everyone on here knows everyone actually on the call. But I'm really passionate about Alzheimer's and all dementias. My grandfather has vascular dementia, and my grandmother, we're waiting for a diagnosis, but it seems that she is in the path to being diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. And an interesting fact about myself, I think many of you already know this, but English is my second language. So my first language is my native tongue, which is Chamorro. So thank you again, and thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank you, LJ. Gordon, how about you?
I'm born and raised in Honolulu and have lived in Hilo, went back and forth twice. The last time about 20 years ago, came back here and I said, this is home. And I've been involved with Alzheimer's even when I was living in Honolulu when the walk was held at the, what's across from the Fisherman's Wharf, that area.
Island?
They demolished all the shopping center there.
Oh,
I can't remember.
Ward Warehouse.
Yeah, Ward Warehouse.
Yes, Ward Warehouse.
Yeah, that's where it
was.
was.
To have it there. But anyway, since moving back, I've maybe in the last 6 years started getting involved. And my dad had Alzheimer's. And, I think 4 of his 7 siblings had. And it's now gone to the next generation where a couple of my cousins have it now. So it is definitely in our family, and that's a big incentive for me to help find a cure.
Yeah. Thank you, Gordon. And Ivy, we know you, but tell us about yourself.
Sure. Hi, everybody. So my name is Ivy. I also have a family connection to the disease. My grandmother had vascular dementia, and I think, I've shared before that I helped my grandfather and my mom care for her at home for over a decade. So I had experience with that at a very young age. So definitely, a cause that's close to my heart, both professionally and personally. And an interesting fact, I'm a relatively short person, but have really big feet.
That's good to know. And yeah, how about you? You have to unmute.
Did you say Tanya?
I did.
Oh, hi. I didn't hear. Sorry.
Sorry.
Hi, I know most everybody. I think Stafford, I think we met at the walk luncheon. And Gordon, it's so good to see you. So I haven't seen you in a while, but my connection, I actually do not have a personal connection, but I have worked in long-term care in the past. So I have a lot of beautiful stories and just ways of dealing with the family dynamics and those type things. and dealing with Alzheimer's. So interesting fact, English is also not my first language. I'm Southerner, so it's a bit like here where the pidgin, so it's a bit like that. So a little bit slower with catching on. But LJ amazes me with how smart he is. I don't know if I could, I don't know how he does it with English being his second language. So pretty amazing. So yeah, it's so good to be here and good to see everybody again.
Thank you, Tanya. Calvin, how about you?
Wow, we got a lot of connections. Yeah, how's it, everybody? You know, small kid time. I grew up over here in Kamaki. Okay, now go to the English that we learned properly in school. My connection, I guess, you know, being in long-term care for many years, I think the most profound item that I want to mention is, you know, in the year 2000, at the campus I was working at, we opened the dementia or memory care unit. And the sad part is, you know, someone with Alzheimer's, in terms of the manifestation of the disease, is still the same. And we are still looking for a treatment or cure. So, you know, for me, I look back 22 years and have that hope that one day we'll have the cure or treatment. My mother had progressive vascular dementia. Presently, I help one of my uncles, not in dementia, but certainly the short-term memory. His good tagline is, I don't know if I told you this, but, and then he tells me the same thing. And I say, oh man, that's interesting. So.
Okay, thanks, Calvin.
Yeah.
And Stafford, how about you?
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Rick. My name is Stafford Kiguchi. I've been retired a little over a year now from Bank of Hawaii. When I was at the bank, I actually wore two hats. I managed the bank's government relations and was their lobbyist. And then I also managed the corporate communications for the bank. My mother had dementia, Alzheimer's. She passed away a couple of years ago. Her sister, who is still living, has Alzheimer's. They're both on the mainland. I'm originally from Los Angeles. I was born in Los Angeles, grew up in Pasadena, went to high school in Westport, Connecticut, and then I came to Hawaii. See, interesting fact, I guess, is I played the drums in a soul band here for a little while. Although I no longer play the drums. That was definitely part of my past history.
So, what's the name of the band?
Thank you.
Do you teach?
Do I teach? No. At one point I did, very long time ago, but I actually took, had a black belt in karate. I surfed and played drums. I do none of those anymore.
Another lifetime, huh?
We're looking for my daughter, that's why. So.
Oh.
Well, Justin, with that, go ahead. It's your turn.
Well, thank you. Justin George. I joined the Alzheimer's Association team as the Director of Development in August of 2020. So right in the heart of the pandemic, and looking forward to getting to know the staff in person in a couple months when we actually return to an office. So really looking forward to that. My strongest connection to the disease is that my wife's grandmother had dementia. She just passed away about a month and a half ago after she had a stroke. And so our thought is that dementia / Alzheimer's might have contributed to her stroke, but we're not 100% sure. And we just celebrated the funeral last Tuesday, which is why I couldn't make the luncheon last week. But I heard it was a great event. So those of you that were there, thank you for making it a great event. The interesting fact, I moved here when I was 20, but I went to high school and a couple of years of college in Maryland. And I recently found out that my classmate in high school is the director of Encanto, the animated production that might win the Academy Award this year for Best Animated Feature. So those of you that have kids who love Disney, or even those of you who don't, check out the movie Encanto. It's a great movie, and I've got to, maybe I'll make it back to a high school reunion and catch up with the director. But so it's not my interesting fact, but sometimes interesting facts are the people that we associate with. So, but thank you so much, and thank you all for being here today.
Thank you, Justin. How about you, Nicholas?
Hello, everybody. Nick from the Alzheimer's Association on Hawaii Island by myself. My connection to the disease during, I think I was in high school, my grandfather here was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease and he passed away in 2003. My dad's mom had dementia of some sort and she passed away. My grandma that's here, she's 97 and she's still living in, she lives in a nursing facility, but she is living with dementia. So 3 out of 4 for me. And interesting fact, I thought English was my first language for the most part, but I think like Calvin, it's a little bit different, yeah. And I didn't really think about this until I'm working on my dissertation for school now. And the writing is very hard because my professor is from India and she said, no, I think because English is not your first language. And I said, no, it is. And she's like, no, it's not. I was like, oh. Okay. And I recently had somebody ask me if I was from here because I was in a meeting with her and I spoke English. And so she thought I was from the mainland. So I guess I am bilingual. I don't know. But anyway, no, that's not my interesting fact. But I was a gymnast for 15 years. That's my interesting fact. And like Stafford, none of that anymore. The only gymnastics is if it happens on accident, I trip over something. That's it. So nice to see everybody. Thanks, Rick.
Thank you. Spence, how about you?
Thanks, Rick. Hi, everyone. I'm Spence. I work for the Alzheimer's Association on Maui. And Rick, it's so nice to see you. My first advocacy day in Honolulu was with you. So great to see you. I think that was 4 years ago already. But this is a really great reason to get together. And my connection to the disease, really started professionally about 7 years ago. When I moved to Maui, I was working for the University of Hawaii for caregivers. And so I really was impacted by that work. It was actually grandparents raising their grandchildren. And that really led me to want to work with caregivers more in this next role that I took with the Alzheimer's Association about 4 years ago. So family-wise, we'll see, there's definitely some things on the horizon as my parents age, but an interesting fact, well, Stafford, I am just starting to learn the drum. One of my favorite things working for the association is teaching these brain health promotion classes. And we always tell people, you have to learn something new. It's great for your brain health. So for my birthday last year, I got a djembe drum and I'm just, drumming along, trying to learn the ropes. So that, I guess, is my interesting fact right now. The drum came all the way from Mali, Africa to Maui. So it was meant to be for me because I lived in Africa for 3 years and I have this special connection to this drum now. So wish me luck.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, that's great, Spence.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
When I was in elementary school, I won a drum set from a woodhorse. And so we actually had a band called the Leopards. We thought we were the hottest things out there. And we were invited to be on a radio show for a fundraiser to do Christmas songs. And we didn't know any of them. And that was the end of the band. We filled it from there. How about you?
What was the name? We didn't quite catch it.
Leopards. We had leopard skin vests and the whole 9 yards. We were copying the Monkees. Just to date myself, if any of you know the Monkees. Your turn there, Humberto. Why don't you tell us about yourself?
Hey, Rick, thanks. Nice to see you again. Nice to see everybody else on the call. Great to be with you. My name is Humberto Blanco. I'm the regional coordinator for Kauai. And my connection with the disease is my mom had vascular dementia, part of her diabetes. And when I thought of an interesting fact, first thing that came to mind was a strange experience I had about decades ago when I was working in the international field. I was going to a conference, and we stopped off in Moscow. And I remember letting my in-tourist host, who was showing me around all the guarded palaces, that actually the Soviet Union it was a Soviet Union at that time, got its atomic weaponry by stealing it from an American scientist. And she thought that was the funniest thing she'd ever heard.
Wow.
And when we would pass the guards, I would ask her to pause our conversation. And she thought that was very humorous as well. She thought she didn't know any reason why we should have any concern at all about security around Russian guards at a military facility. It just goes to show you different perceptions, huh?
Right. Wow. Okay. Thank you. And everyone's kind of blacked out. Rebecca, are you there? You're up next. Rebecca? No? Okay, I'll go to Jamal.
Rebecca's actually in the airport getting on a plane or something.
Okay, just a picture there then. Okay, how about you, Jamal?
Aloha. So I guess my connection to Alzheimer's is when actually I was introduced to the Alzheimer's Association by Chaplain Bill a few years back. He brought me into the Alzheimer's volunteer. So I started off as an ambassador for a few years. You know, as a hospice director and worked in hospice for 10 years, you know, I definitely felt the need that a lot of the dementia and Alzheimer's patients and residents in the care homes and foster homes and nursing home facilities needed a lot of voice. You know, because even right now as a long-term care ombudsman, what I'm realizing a lot of the care home operators or foster home operators is they try to kind of set it up in terms of, you know, because I always ask if the resident is alert and oriented, and most of the time they say, oh, you know, so-and-so has dementia or Alzheimer's. But of course, in my mind, they still have a voice. They might have a power of attorney, but again, they still have capacity. They might still be competent. So to me, what's important is always being a voice and advocate for all Alzheimer's residents and or patients. Again, an interesting fact about me is, you know, I did participate in a USO tour in Japan for 3 weeks back in 2007. So I had the pleasure and opportunity to perform for our military men and women in Japan, all over the different bases from Okinawa, Misawa, Tokyo. So that was definitely a fascinating and a great opportunity and experience that I've had. So again, thank you.
Thank you, Jamal. Just long shot here, Dr. Balaz, are you back?
I am.
Oh, you are. Fantastic. You're up.
My name, connection, and your why, and an interesting fact. Okay. So for Ki'i, my connection is my father and grandfather both had Alzheimer's. And so I'm currently a caregiver for my father who's in the end stages, as well as a provider who sees those with Alzheimer's dementia in their families, and a care home operator in the renal home. My interesting fact, I'm not sure it's an interesting fact. I loved Ivy's interesting fact. That was like really good. So I think really just mine is that I really love traveling. I love international travel. I just love new experiences and new things.
Fantastic. Okay. Did I get everybody? I think I did here. So next what we're going to move into is the Hawaii State Priorities for 2022. The main reason we're here, actually. And Stafford's going to do an intro on that, followed by some details by LJ, and then a call to action. Stafford, do you want to talk about the priorities with us?
Sure, thanks, Rick. And I appreciate, I'm relatively new to the association, so I still get a lot of coaching from Rick and LJ, so I appreciate their help. As Rick mentioned, the two legislative priorities for this year are the Kapuna Care and Kapuna Caregiver Program Bill. And that bill, which is actually SB 3113, has passed both committees in the Senate. And I believe on Friday, the Senate recommended that it pass final reading or third reading, which, if I'm not mistaken, will happen tomorrow. So pending passage of the final reading, it should cross over to the House on Thursday. And then it will probably be heard, hopefully, in the Health Committee and on the House side, as well as Finance. So there was a companion bill, which basically means an identical bill introduced in the House. It did get heard in the Health Committee with just a couple minor changes. It did not get heard in Finance because Finance picked up that the Senate bill was moving. So typically what they do is they'll just wait for that Senate bill to cross over to save some time and effort. The Senate did make a couple minor amendments to the bill, but hopefully those were pretty benign and it will move. The Alzheimer's disease and related dementia services coordinator position is basically asking for somebody to be hired in that position. But I'm going to turn it over to LJ, who has much more detail on these bills. So LJ, can I pass the baton over to you?
Thank you, Stafford and Rick for your help today. So, many of you are familiar with the Kupuna Care Program and the Kupuna Caregiver Program, and some of you may not be familiar with the two programs. I, for one, had to do a lot of homework and reading and chatting with Ivy and others that are more familiar, but I wanted to share just a little bit about the two programs and how they're different, and then why we're supporting these, this bill, the Alzheimer's coordinator position check-in. And then we are also supporting other bills, such as the Ombudsman bill and the Hearing Aid bill. But our call to action for our advocates is going to be just focused on these two priorities for this year. So the Kupuna Caregiver Program was established in 2000 to assist frail adults to lead independent, meaningful, and dignified lives by providing care in the home through community-based services. It allows for aging in place, thus preventing or delaying the need for more expensive and restrictive level of care. This care could be in a nursing home, assisted living facility, long-term care settings like that. To qualify for the program, the Kupuna must be a Hawaii resident, a US citizen, over the age of 60. They must be aging in place, so they can't be in an institution or a foster or nursing home. They must require assistance with a minimum of 2 activities of daily living. This means eating, bathing, moving from bed to chair or chair to bed, or have a considerable cognitive impairment that requires assistance or supervision. There are no income restrictions for people to qualify for the Kupuna Care Program. The Kupuna Caregiver Program launched in 2018, and this was the very first in the country that will help ease, or its goal was to help ease the financial burden of care to support working caregivers who are unpaid caregivers to remain gainfully employed. Now, to qualify, the caregiver, and so I'm saying the caregiver, not the care recipient, must provide care for an elderly US citizen, Hawaii resident over the age of 60. They must work a minimum of 30 hours per week, and there are also no income restrictions. Now also the care recipient, so the person that is provided care, will also need to meet the same requirements under the Kupuna Care Program. For those who qualified for this particular program, the Kupuna Caregiver Program, $210 is made available to them on a weekly basis to use through a service provider. Now, the service provider was an adult daycare or home care agency that has been vetted and approved for by the county or the Office of Aging on the county level. So both programs are administered by the Executive Office of Aging, and they provide the same services such as adult daycare, assisted transportation, case management, respite care, personal care, all of the above. So it is our hope that combining the two programs will eliminate confusion and silos created by having two programs and will enable more efficient use of federal, state, and county resources. The real big difference is really who the person applying for the services are. It's whether it's a care recipient or the caregiver, the employed caregiver. So combining the programs will also expand services to our kupuna and their caregivers. The bill right now that's moving, the Senate bill, calls for a few changes to the program, which include decreasing the number of required hours for an employed caregiver from 30 hours, which I shared earlier, to 20 hours. So this increases the number of people that could qualify or make use of this service. It also amends the program to include participant-directed services, which gives the care recipient or the caregiver the ability to seek support outside of the service provider network. So this allows them to hire a family member or a neighbor to provide care if needed. Now, there are some administrative things that need to happen in order for that to happen, but we're not interested in that. We just want to make sure that this gets its way through and have the EOA or the Executive Office of Aging determine what that's going to start to look like for those who are outside of the provider network. Now, our ask with lawmakers is to ensure that this bill becomes law. If this bill does not pass, those who are part of the kupuna caregiver program, the working caregivers that are unpaid, will left without support and services will be limited for all, including kupuna care program recipients. So I wanted to just open it now for questions. If anyone had any questions about this particular bill and these two services that really does the same thing. And our intention is to really make sure that there is flexibility on the care recipient, the caregiver, and with the team at the Executive Office of Aging to ensure that better care and services are available for our kupuna and their caregivers. So wanted to open it up to any questions, if anyone had any questions at this time.
It's concerned with this. I'm on PUBIA, and we talk about it quite a bit there, is tracking the data. Not just the data for the numbers of folks that are using the service, which they're doing, but also tracking the data of the folks that call in wanting the services, because oftentimes there's told that there's no room, there's no space, call back later, but they're not taking the information down. And I've talked about this with Caroline and folks for a long time. Very important that we know the numbers of folks that need the services. So when we're asking for funding, we know what we're asking for based on data. So as long as we're doing that as part of this merger, I think it could be very successful. If we're not collecting that, we have no idea who needs the services out there. So not really asking, I'm just stating that's one of the points that we bring up in PUBIA. I'm on the legislative committee and we talk about it quite a bit. So I'm hopeful that that's going to be written into this. So just for the record, thank you.
Yeah, that you bring up a good point, Rick. On their website, it does say that they may be put on a wait list, but that wait list, from my understanding, does not exist. So, working administratively with Caroline and her team to ensure that that happens, I think, we can do outside of legislation, or if it's something that we can amend moving forward, but I'll circle back with you and the rest of the team after we have a discussion with Caroline, but you're right. We need to ensure that if we're only asking for, we're only asking for 1.5 million in addition, but that may actually be based on those we were only able to support with the funding that was initially available.
Right. Yeah, and I base it on when I was doing in-home care, I would refer folks that couldn't afford the services and that were working to this, and they would be told, call back in 6 months. We don't have room right now. And I would ask, did they take your name? And they said, no. So yeah, thanks, LJ.
Hey, Justin.
Yeah, Calvin, did you have a question?
Oh, no, actually, LJ just answered it well.
Okay. My question was just from last year's, one of the questions that was brought up by one of the legislatures was, by reducing from 30 hours to 20 hours, is that going to limit the amount of resources per family, or is there unused money every year that will now be allocated to people between 20 and 30 hours?
So that's a great question. Now that we're working to combine the programs, there's going to be more flexibility in moving money around, so that if Kupuna Care, which happened this past year, is that they had an excess of funds that they've utilized to support the Kupuna Caregiver program, that could be possible, right? And also because the bill doesn't put a number on how much is going to be expended per week for the Kupuna Caregiver program, those who have fallen into that program. It's going to give the ADRC team the ability to be more flexible, whether they increase that to more than 210 or they decrease it based on the services that they're needing for their care recipient. So I know that there's still a lot of work that needs to be done on the administrative side with EOA, and so we want to be a part of that discussion to support or to at least advocate for our caregivers as well. I hope that answers your question.
Oh, absolutely. And that was just one of the questions that one of the legislatures, why she didn't approve it last year. She thought it was going to take money away from one group and give it to another. So if you get that question again, that's great to be prepared. So thank you.
Great. Any other questions? Okay, so the next priority is our Alzheimer's disease and related dementia services coordinator. In 2013, the Hawaii 2025 State Plan on Alzheimer's disease was developed to address the impact dementia has on Hawaii residents. And also in 2013, Hawaii signed into law the creation of the Alzheimer's disease and related dementia services coordinator position within the EOA, or the Executive Office of Aging. But 9 years later, this position has yet to be filled. So as many of you have been a part of the advocacy we've been doing for this position, it has a lot to do with technical updates or amendments that had to happen, whether it's fixing the one FTE or whether it's allocating funding for this particular position. Our ask for this year is really just calling on lawmakers and the governor and lieutenant governor to follow up and check in with the Executive Office of Aging on the status of this hire, to just make sure that there is someone that can help implement the state plan, the Hawaii State 2025 Plan on Alzheimer's disease and related dementia. So our hope is that, there is some pressure that is put on EOA to move forward with this hire. I did hear from Caroline that they are moving forward with the process of hiring, but we just want to make sure that this, makes its way through the process in order for us to, kind of continue on and move forward with Hawaii's state plan. So there's no legislation this year with this particular position because it's in law. There are some questions with regards to the funding that's associated with the position, because in the budget it states that it's zero funded. So we just wanted to, raise some awareness about this with legislators and bring attention to this to the administration. So hopeful if either this year or next year, they're able to fill this position. So just wanted to open up to any questions, if anyone had any questions about this particular priority of ours this year.
Now we've talked a little bit, but what do you think the delay is? Because we approved this before, some time ago. You and I had a conversation about it, but it's kind of interesting how long it's taken to fill this. Even the FTE versus full-time position terminology was kind of interesting error, if you will. But yeah, long time.
Yeah, I don't know, Rick. I think Calvin has been involved with the association and advocating for this position for quite some time. Him and Dr. Balaz and Jomel Calvin, do you have any sense on why there's hesitation with regards to this position from maybe what you've heard in in the past with some of the meetings with legislators or EOA?
No, not really. I mean, I thought after the technical bill correction, last legislative year, that it was a slam dunk. I mean, that's kind of the statement, not in those words, but Ian, had said, that's all we need. It's just one little thing that happened, and so, they can move forward. But I don't know if it's just caught up in a bureaucratic system, where that's why I think, just this little approach of the lawmakers, the bill writers, legislators, put that call out. I mean, I really don't know.
Yeah, so we hope that, bringing awareness to this unfilled position will perhaps encourage legislators and the administration to ask some questions. We're glad to see that the ombudsman's positions have been filled, and that's moving forward, because that's also a very important position that we should have for our state. But we'd also like to see this move along, whether it's this year or next year, if funding is going to be an issue with EOA or the administration. So I hope that this may create some buzz, and maybe we can have that discussion with EOA, who can share kind of the concerns of why this position has not been filled, or if this position should fall within another department because it makes better sense. I don't know. I think this is a discussion we'll have to have with them. Okay. So for this year, we're going to keep it very busy. We can't go into the Capitol, so we're going to take action by email or on social media. And beginning tomorrow, our advocates and all of you on the call today will receive emails or text messages from the Alzheimer's Association Hawaii. And based on your zip code that you enter, the system will automatically identify who your representatives or senators are and target them. The email body provides our ask and suggested language, but you can edit it as you please. Sharing your personal story is going to be very impactful, so that's highly suggested. So total, you'll receive 4 emails or 4 text messages asking you to take action this week on our priorities. Second, once you've sent an email, you can easily share the action that you've taken on social media by simply clicking on the bottom social media icons, which you can see here. It's either Facebook or Twitter. Instagram doesn't allow us to post to Instagram automatically because a photo needs to be attached to a post. So that's one way you can take action by email and then also by social media. Additionally, we've created a Google Drive with additional social media assets or graphics with suggested verbiage. And so we highly recommend that when you do post stuff on social media, tag your lawmakers when sharing these assets, and a link to the drive will be shared by email following this webinar. So everything is going to be available, including talking points, the schedule of meetings with legislators that are coming up. So if anyone is able and interested in joining us, that would be great. The more people we have sharing personal stories is always going to be more impactful. And again, including links to the bills that we're supporting, and then also assets that you could use for social media or when sending emails to legislators. Again, we are supporting other bills like the ombudsman bill. So we hope that that will make its way through the legislature. It looks like it's moving, including the hearing aid bill that, I'll ask Rick to share a little bit about shortly, but just wanted to open it up to questions again, if there are any. No questions? Okay. Rick, you want to talk a little bit about that hearing bill?
Yeah, just real briefly, it's doing quite well this year. It's got a lot of support, incredible support this year. Okay, and I have been involved in hearing aid stuff through the Rotary, giving away free hearing aids, and I've just always wondered why it's not covered by insurances. And so this is actually requiring that insurances cover $1,500 per year for hearing aids. Hearing aids are quite expensive, and it's making its way. So it's got a lot of support. So if you could jump on that, it would be great. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but there's a House bill, of course, and a Senate bill. It's doing quite well. You know what? I'll send you the information on it. I sent it to LJ earlier as well. And we're almost there. There's also eye and there's also dental that's making its way through this year as well. Why those three haven't been covered all this time, I don't know. As you know, with hearing aids, with loss of hearing, there's definitely, it's tied into Alzheimer's directly. There's a spike in Alzheimer's issues, dementia-related kinds of issues. My mother had hearing issues for a very long time. She does have dementia right now. I'm not going to say that was the cause of it, but I do believe it was part of it, because you become isolated. You can't really be a part. You actually don't go out. And that's what my mom was doing. She wasn't going out. She wasn't communicating. Wasn't with people. And so the mind kind of slips when that happens. Also, it has been related to not just mental health issues, but psychotic issues as well. So hearing is just, and I'm going to say, it's not just Kapuna issue. It's from birth on. There's a whole lot of folks that have hearing related kind of issues. If you're born with hearing loss or with loss of anything, you don't know anything different. And so, but if you've had, I saw something on 60 Minutes last night, a skier that's blind. He had eyesight as a young man, had an accident, and then ended up through a series of accidents, losing his eyesight, but he's still skiing. Pretty remarkable story last night, 60 Minutes. But the hearing aid thing is just very, very important. So your support, and the ombudsman too, I'm involved in that now too. We're 43 years out of compliance. There's a Civil Beat article that came out just like last week talking about that. And hopefully this year we can have dedicated ombudsmen on each of the islands so folks can have their needs met. So thank you for your support on those also and everything. So I think with that, I'm just going to thank everyone for joining us today and point out this is being recorded. And so there's going to be a recording. I know there was Dr. Balaji asked about the slides. We can make those available, but there's also the recording that's going to be available. And we can share this recording, right, LJ? We can put that on our social media so other people can see it as well as part of the advocacy here. And if you have questions, LJ is always available, so you know how to reach him. You got the information up there. Oh, there's this music thing coming up as well, so join Calvin and everybody for music and memory. I used to do a lot of stuff with music with our clients. They DJ dances, and it's pretty remarkable what music can do. Pretty remarkable. Okay, so anything else, LJ?
No, I think we're good. And congratulations again to Jamel, who is our ombudsman. So looking forward to working with you, Jamel, on issues that we can help support you with your role, this new exciting role. But thank you everyone for joining us. Recording will be shared, including the link to the Google Drive. And happy Advocacy Week.
All right, take care, everybody. And you stop the recording?